Sports science respiratory system. Ventilation is the movement of air in and out of your lungs and is measured in litres per minute. This can be determined by the tidal volume and the breathing rate. Ventilation equals tidal volume times breathing rate. Breathing rate is measured in breaths per minute. When someone is at rest, ventilation is around 6 to 7 litres per minute. When you are not at rest, the ventilation will increase as the breathing rate is increased. This is because the muscles need more oxygen when doing exercise, therefore need more oxygen from the atmosphere, which would increase the breathing rate. When doing sport, your ventilation differs at different stages. When at rest, your ventilation should be as normal at around 6 to 7 litres per minute. However, at a pre-exercise, your breathing rate may increase depending on how nervous you feel before the exercise. If you are more nervous, then your breathing rate may increase. When exercising, your breathing rate and tidal volume will increase as you are in need of more oxygen and you are producing more carbon dioxide. The longer you exercise, the higher the ventilation, as ventilation increases when tidal volume and or breathing rate increases. In a recent test, we measured the ventilation during the bleep test. It is expected that the breathing rate keeps increasing as the muscles work harder as well as the tidal volume, as more oxygen is needed in the lungs, leading to the tidal volume to increase. As your breathing rate is around 12 to 15 breaths per minute, however, at maximum intensity, your breaths could go up to 60. When exercising, a lot of processes need to take place in your body to allow more oxygen in your body and for your lungs to expand. In inspiration, when exercising, your external intercostal muscles will contract, but a lot faster than it would when it is at rest. This goes to the same for your diaphragm, when it will flatten quicker than it would at rest and will cause more space in the lungs. The volume in your lungs would increase more than at rest, and then the pressure in your lungs would decrease more than in your lungs as more volume is increased. With air pressure, the concentration gradient will be a lot steeper than at rest due to how high the volume is in the lungs. In expiration, your external intercostal muscles and your diaphragm will relax. The ribs will be pulled back and the diaphragm will return to its dome shape. The volume decreases the same amount as when it increased, and the pressure increased the same amount as when it decreased. Finally, the air pressure will be lungs into atmosphere as a steep gradient. In respiration, there needs to be some accessory muscles. These muscles are called the sternocleidomastoid and the scalene muscles. These muscles help move the ribs outwards to increase the volume in the lungs by contracting and pulling them out. When these stop contracting, then the ribs will return to its natural position. To trigger these muscles, the center called the expiratory control center sends the impulses to make these muscles contract. The ventral respiratory group is a group in the expiratory control center, and it forces expiratory as it would increase the force of the inspiration in order to balance out someone who would not be breathing out more than breathing in. To prevent overinflation, there is a system called the Heeren-Breuer reflex, where it will control the inflation of the lungs where there is a heavy inspiration taking place. This would send signals to increase expiration. This is used as protection so your lungs don't overload. The Valsalva maneuver is where people try to do expiration with their nose and mouth shut. This causes air to build pressure. Therefore, pressure increases in your ear and sometimes into your chest. This is done when perhaps you're in an aeroplane and your ears have high pressure due to lower atmospheric pressure. Therefore, when doing the Valsalva maneuver, pressure will equal in your ear and causing it to pop to release the discomfort. This is also seen in skiing and high up in the mountains as pressure decreases the higher you are. When you aren't able to breathe out of your mouth or nose, your epiglottis in your throat will stop air from coming out. It slows your heart being pumped out. It slows down the blood being pumped out of your heart. Therefore, heart rate will increase. This is good for weightlifting as you hold your breath when you're lifting. When at rest, your breathing rate will be around 30 to 20 breaths per minute. We managed to investigate 2 exercises in order to measure our breathing rate. We did a multi-stage test and a Wingate test. With the multi-stage test, the runners would have low intensity but long duration because the energy systems would not be able to keep up with the runner if the runner had high intensity for long duration. Therefore, as there is a low intensity, the breathing rate will gradually increase. As the graph shows, the breathing rate tends to go up at pre-test as nerves may kick in, such as panicking. This is managed by impulses getting sent to the lungs, which increases breathing rate. Throughout the test, the gradual increase in breathing rate increases ventilation as well, as the tidal volume is more, and the tidal volume as more oxygen is needed. The production of carbon dioxide also causes the breathing rate to increase when someone is doing a multi-stage test, as shown because carbon dioxide needs to be exhaled into the atmosphere. This data can also give us estimations of the ventilation, as ventilation is breathing rate times tidal volume. Therefore, at perhaps maximal effort, the breathing rate for this runner in level 8 is 50 breaths per minute, and the average tidal volume at maximal is around 3,500 milliliters. Therefore, the runner's ventilation will be 170,000 liters per minute. At the post-test of the multi-stage test, the breathing rate will be at its highest straight after you have stopped running, as carbon dioxide still needs to be released into the atmosphere, but after a few minutes it would start to decrease as the muscles are no longer needed for exercise. Therefore, no extra oxygen is needed and no extra carbon is getting produced. In the other test, we did the Wingate test, is a lot different to the multi-stage test, as this was maximal exercise the whole time, as it was only 20 seconds. The same process will be used for rest. Same process will be used for the rest and pre-test of the exercise. However, the only other level being used in this is the post-test, and it was so short that it had such high intensity. As a result, the graph shows that the breathing rate is 24 breaths per minute, where it has risen from 21 breaths per minute at the pre-test. This is because the muscles need more oxygen, but as it is a short period of time, then you would not need your breathing rate to increase like the runner did in the multi-stage test. In football, all positions will increase your ventilation as you are running most of the time. Different positions will have different breathing rates at different times in the match. For example, a winger may have a different breathing rate to perhaps a central midfielder. This could be because a winger may be sprinting instead of jogging most of the time, which can relate to the Wingate test, as they will have short bursts of running. And maybe a central midfielder will be running like the multi-stage test, constant but low intensity for parts of the game. The average tidal volume for a footballer will be around 1,500 milliliters at submaximal, and if they are at maximal, then they would have around 4,000 milliliters. However, if that happened, then they would fatigue earlier and they would need to last a whole 90 minutes. Therefore, they need to keep their energy quite high throughout the match. In the result of this, the breathing rate is always increasing and the ventilation is always increasing when a footballer is in a match. When these players are in a game, the movement in their lungs and contractions in the muscles would need to be very strong, as they would have such a high level of oxygen needed and a high level of carbon dioxide getting produced. Therefore, the more volume for the oxygen, the better. That's why they need to train to enable the body to take in more oxygen to fatigue slower.